Hi Ben, I hope you're well. Thank you so much for keeping in contact with me and allowing me to share my experience on your channel. I have an experience that I would like to share with you. I'm currently serving in the British Army. I've been in the Army now for the last 15 years, and I've been a sergeant for the last 3 of those. However, this experience happened to me while I was still only a private soldier. I was based down south and was out on Salisbury Plain, completing a 2-week exercise. One night, me and a friend of mine was both sitting on stag, which is basically sat in a little dugout trench underneath a camouflage tarp, looking out into the woods. The rest of the platoon was fast asleep behind us, about 20 metres and set back into the woods. I tell you this because I'm 100% sure that what I saw that night wasn't one of the other guys wandering about. The time was roughly about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had roughly only an hour left to complete on stag before we could go climb back into our sleeping bags. I remember this particular night was extremely cold and the temperature dropped down to about -6, so it was certainly cold enough to see your breath out in front of your face, that's for sure. My friend was trying to keep warm and he was mumbling to me about how corporals would sometimes run mock tests during the night. They would often approach the sentries and give incorrect details to whoever was on stag, just to make sure that mainly they were still awake. Just as he was saying this, I noticed a figure through the trees, just standing there. It looked to me like somebody very tall was stood there off in the distance, smoking a cigarette. My initial thought was that it must be one of the corporals who has moved away from camp to have a quick smoke. My logic was trying to tell me at the time that he's probably doing this to lead by example. After all, this was supposed to be a hard routine camp, basically meaning that there was no lights, no noise, and certainly no smoking. I nudged my friend quietly and said, "Hey, look over there." He lifted his head up and saw exactly the same thing that I was looking at, but we both just assumed that it was one of the corporals having a cigarette. Then all of a sudden, it dropped down from standing up on 2 feet to now being down on all fours in the blink of an eye. This thing started to move through the trees, like a very large dog. It was the creepiest thing that I've ever seen. Both me and my friend were now completely terrified at this point and actually said, "What the fuck, did you just see that?" We was going to call stand 2, which basically means to wake everybody up, but we didn't know what the hell we was looking at or even how we would explain this. We never did say anything to anyone in the morning, and no corporal ever mentioned it. Looking back now, what I think I originally thought was smoke coming from a cigarette was actually breath hitting the cold night air. I hate to say this, but this thing looked like a dog, and it behaved like a bear. I've seen documentaries before where bears will stand up on 2 feet to smell the air, and I think that that's what I saw in the beginning. After basic training was complete, me and my friend both joined different battalions, and we both went our separate ways. But I have no doubt that wherever he is right now, he'll always remember that one night when we was both sat in a tiny little dugout looking into the woods at this thing fall to all fours. Oh my God, what an absolutely amazing encounter. Now, this to me has Dogman written all over it. This doesn't sound like anything that resembles a Bigfoot or a wild man. This has the traits of a dogman, especially the part where he said it stood up, or it was already standing up, sniffing the air, and he thought it was someone having a cigarette. This is just an unbelievable encounter, and I'm so glad that you got to share that with someone else. It's just too bad that you guys did go your separate ways and that you can't come back together to relive this, and just to pick out some of those memories, make sure that they're all still there as you remembered them. That would be quite cool. But yeah, absolutely amazing. And I've got to be honest, I'm not a huge Dogman believer. I'll say that right from the start. I'm not a very big Dogman believer, but it does fascinate me a hell of a lot because people are seeing things. And I don't feel like everybody can be making things up. So if people are coming forward with all these weird Dogman sightings, if it is misidentification, then what is it misidentifying it with? There's not too many animals out there that stand up to smell the air and then drop down on all fours running through the trees like a dog. That is creepy beyond anything you can imagine. You guys have been awesome as always. Thank you for sticking this one out with me to the end. If you do have a story, then please do remember to send it into 401files@gmail.com. Also remember to comment down below, guys, because you know the YouTube algorithm really does prefer comments. So as many as you like, get firing them below in the box. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, take it easy. Stay safe, please, wherever you are in the world. Look after yourselves. And if you are in a position to do so, then please do look after somebody else as well.